I'm Jody Hand, Mrs. Hand Painted, and thanks for checking out my channel here on YouTube where I teach you how to paint in watercolor. And in today's video, I'll be showcasing another set of my handmade watercolors that I've just released, and this one is called Supernova, and it's a collection of 3 purples and 3 blues, one of them which is like an indigo color. And I am really super proud of it, and I hope that you can check it out. You can find it in my Etsy shop, which I'll link for you in the description. And in today's video, we'll be using this set to paint this really pretty galaxy painting with the forest. I know it's a really popular style of painting to do, and I'm going to be using the Etchr postcards as well to paint on this. So I hope that you are able to paint along with me, and if you paint one of these pretty paintings, I'd love for you to share it with me. You can tag me on Instagram with Mrs. Hand Painted. And make sure you check out my Etsy shop. And if you're interested in the palette that I'm using, a really great artist out of New Mexico made those. Her name is Lisa Alden. And she's actually making me some custom hand-shaped palettes with my logo that'll be coming in the mail very soon, probably getting them next week. And so I'm really excited to share those with you as well. So make sure you check out her site because she's got some really gorgeous handmade ceramic palettes. And I'd love to help support another artist. And I hope that you can find something fun, maybe a Christmas gift for yourself or a loved one who's also an artist. So without further ado, let's go ahead and paint this galaxy. All right, everyone, welcome back to another tutorial here on my channel. I am going to be doing, recreating this little watercolor galaxy that I painted the other night. And I'm just going to start by going over all of my supplies that I'll be using. Here, I'm getting all set up. I have my 2 jars of water, one for rinsing out the paint out of my brush and one for getting clean water to dip back into my palette. I have a mixing palette here, and this is a handmade ceramic palette by a New Mexico artist named Lisa Alden. You can find her on Etsy, and I will link her Etsy shop in the description for you. I really, really love her palettes, and I have it coming in the mail to me right now, some really special custom palettes that she made for me. The paper I'm using is going to be an Etchr postcard. They have 100 of these for just about 40 bucks, 35 to 40 bucks, depending where you buy them. And you can find those on Etchr's website as well as Amazon. I really like them. I haven't used a whole lot of them yet because I feel like they're special and I want to save them, but I have a really fun time painting on these little papers, and they're all 100% cotton. And you could actually mail them if you wanted to. They have all the spot right here, and they're pretty thick. So you could go ahead and mail these if you wanted to, which is really fun. I've got a little piece of chipboard. This is actually just like a 5x7 backing board here for the 4x6 postcard. And I've got some washi tape to tack it down with. I am going to be using my handmade watercolors. This is a brand new set that I have just released in my Etsy shop, and I'll link that for you as well. I'm calling this one Supernova, and it is perfect for doing these galaxies. It's got some of my very favorite colors ever, including a duplicate to indigo, which is using the same exact pigments that Daniel Smith indigo uses. So if you really like that color, I tried my best to recreate it here, and I think it turned out really great. Some of my all-time favorite purples and aqua blue. So this is a really great set for doing this. And as you can see here, that midnight color just is perfect for that silhouette of the trees. And then the other little supply I'm using is some Dr. P.H. Martin's Blade Proof White, and I'll show you how we use that at the end. That'll be our last step. The brushes that I'm using today, for the main part of the painting, I'm going to be using this is from Jackson's Art. They're out of the UK, but you can order online, and I believe if you order just brushes, their shipping is free. And everything I've ordered for them, if I just pick the FedEx International Express, comes really fast. So these are the Icon series, and this is this Quill size 10/0. And then I'm just using an old brush I had. This is a Winsor & Newton Cotman brush round 6. I'm using that for my bleed proof white. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and take my washi tape, or if you have just masking tape, something. I want to tape this down because I am going to be covering the entire sheet of paper with water. So I want to make sure it's nice and taped down so that my paper doesn't curl up. And if you don't have these postcards and you wanted to do this and you have paper blocks, blocks are a perfect reason to use these because it's already glued down for you, and I didn't cut that long enough. I'll save that one. Like a little bit longer strip. So yeah, like I was saying, if you have watercolor blocks, that would be perfect application to use this for because you're going to be covering the entire sheet of paper, and then it's already glued down for you on all sides, and you don't have to worry about the paper curling. And oh, I guess the other little thing I've got sitting here is my heat tool. This is from Ranger. I had it already from scrapbooking and crafting, so it's really great for drying your paint fast if you have a hair dryer or something like that, just to dry your paint, because we are going to be doing a couple layers here. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to go ahead and do is just get my brush with some clean water, and I'm going to cover the entire sheet with water. And just go ahead and try to get an even wash so you don't have puddled up spots. We just want to give our paint a base to kind of spread around in here. And this is kind of just a very loosey-goosey, I guess, way of painting here. I'm not going to be going and trying to make something really detailed. Main focus of this is the background, and then we're adding the trees over top after it's dry. So I want to maybe start with a little bit of lavender in the center, but I'm going to kind of leave a little area white and just let the paint bleed into it. So I'm going to start with this Celestial Violet color in the center. I'm just going to drop it in. I'm not mixing anything on my palette yet. I just want to get that color down. And then I'll work my way out. I'm going to go with the Title color. I'm just going to drop that in. I'm going directly from the pan here. I'm not mixing anything yet. I'll rinse my brush out, and then we'll drop in some of this Galactic Blue. And I kind of went slightly at an angle here. This is just the first layer. We are, as you can see, it's pretty dark here. I actually did 2 layers of this. So I dried 1 layer, and then I did it all again on top of it. Alright, and then maybe we can go in with some of the Stellar. We'll start to shift to purple. It's more of like a red violet. I'll kind of let that blend together with that blue a little bit. And then I'll do the Nebula, which is that darker purple. And then rinse that out, and then we'll switch to the Midnight. And then I'm going to actually get that and then go along the bottom with it as well. And I'm just letting all of that kind of blur together right now. Okay, so I'm going to rinse my brush out and just kind of dab off some of the excess water, and then we're going to use our brush to just kind of push that color around and blend it together. Get rid of any really like defined edges of color, and you can kind of pull some of this purple into the middle too. And okay, so there's layer 1. Got that color just pulled around. I got a little bit of a slant, not too severe, a little bit different than the first one, but every single one of these is different and unique, and they're so pretty, and I just love painting them. It's been so long since I painted a galaxy, so it was really fun when I made this set to kind of make the perfect set for painting a galaxy. I love it. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and dry this layer. If you don't have a dryer or a heat tool, it might take 20-30 minutes for this to be completely dry, because if you go back in and try to do another layer on top, it's just going to bleed across the entire thing. So it's easier for us to dry this and then do another layer on top after this is dry. Alright, one disadvantage of that heat tool is it kind of starts to lift up your tape a little bit, so I'm just going to press that back down. Alright, now as you can see, it's kind of muted, and here I have it pretty dark, so this is why we're going to do the second layer. And I'm not going to saturate my whole paper down this time. I'm going to kind of use the water after the fact to push the color around, so I can keep maintaining that kind of lighter area in the center. So now I'm going to start and mix some of these up on my palette just to get enough water in there. Alright, so I'm doing a strip of the lavender, and then I'm getting my brush wet, and I'm just going to use that to just kind of blend that. Alright, we'll get our Title. And I'll get the Galactic Blue. You might notice that my paints look a little like craters. That's because I pulled them out after just the first layer, and then I fill them all up to the top afterwards. So this one so I could start painting with it, I only did the one layer in mine. But yours, if you order from my shop, will be completely full to the tippy top. So do not be alarmed by the state of my paints. All right, so I'm just kind of trying to do this very quickly so that it doesn't dry with harsh lines, so I can go back in and get those blended out with a little water on my brush. Okay, so I'm just going to get that midnight in there now. I want that one to be pretty dark around the edge and then along the bottom. So, but you don't need to be too fussy about the bottom because we are going to do trees over the top, so most of that will probably be painted over. Okay, so I'm getting water on my brush, but not too much. Just dab off extra, and then we can use that to just blend that together. And you may need to go back and get some more water from time to time. Just make sure that you have enough to blend that in. And if you're switching over to the dark end here, you want to rinse back out before you go back into your center. Otherwise you'll pull that midnight color into the middle, and you don't want that when we want that really light area in the center. And if you blend in too much color into the center, all we have to do is take our paper towel and we can lift up some of that while the paint is wet, and it will pull some of that color back up. So I'll show you here as an example here. I'm just going to take the little corner of my paper towel and I can dab across there, and that will pull up some of the color if you get too much in your center when you're blending. And just be careful that you're not scrubbing your paper too much here with your brush as you're blending those together, because you can start to make the paper pill up. And I definitely recommend using a 100% cotton for something like this, because it's going to suck in a lot of water, and you want some nice high quality paper that's going to be able to take all of that. So these Etchr postcards are 100% cotton, and they do a really nice job of this. All right, I'm going to go ahead, dry this, and then we can do our last step, which is putting our second to last step, which will be the trees, and then our last step will be putting those flecks of white stars in there. All right, and I did notice here I didn't get that blended in very well, so I want to go back, just get my brush damp, and I'm just going to try and blend that harsh line over a little bit. Get that blended in a little better there. That's a lot better. Okay, dry that again. All right, and you know what? I think I might actually do this reverse of what I did the first time, and I'm going to do my stars before my trees, so then I'm not putting stars on top of my trees. I'll kind of use my paper towel to mask off my paper here so that I keep this lower part without the stars. Then because this bleed proof white will kind of show through. When I originally did that, I just kind of held my hand and I tapped, but it got all over my hand, all over my desk. So, all right. As you might notice, my bleed proof white I've had for quite a while, and you can add more water to this. Just do not add your colored paint water, obviously. What I like to do is actually use a little bit of distilled water, because then you don't get a mineral buildup. Because one mistake I did originally was just using water from my jar all the time, and then it starts to build up like crystals in there, and then you have to rehydrate it and keep stirring it and getting it all. You can see how gunky and crystallized that is along the top. So I am just going to go in here and get a little bit, and I'm going to put this on my palette and water it down this way instead of putting water directly into my jar, because I am ruining it by doing that. Alright, so now with splatters, the more water you have, the bigger dots you're going to get, or splatters you'll get. So if you don't want big ones, you'll want to get a lot of the excess water off of your brush. And I like to just tap it with my finger. You can kind of block off with your hand, the paper towel, and just go until you have enough stars that you like. That actually turned out better than my first one, I think. Alright. Now I can go ahead and go do my trees, and I'm going to do that back with my Quill brush. I'm going to get a lot of this midnight color out onto my palette, and I want this to be fairly concentrated with not a lot of water in it, so that I get that really deep indigo, almost black color. Alright, that should be enough. And I'm going to get off some of that excess water so that my trees stay nice and defined. I like these quill brushes because they have such a nice point. And if you don't want to use a quill brush for this, a round brush is just fine too. And I know if you've watched a lot of my other videos, I do like to do these pine trees with a dagger brush, but for this video, I'm just sticking with the single brush for the entire thing. I'm going to keep my edges taped down so that I don't go over. Here, my first one, I did go over underneath the edge just a little bit, my paint bled. So I'll just go ahead and make some random heights of trees and just vary up your height on your trees. I'm going to start with just making a little trunk here to give myself a guideline, and then it'll be really thin, just little dabs, and I'm going to make my way down and make some little branches here. And I'll try to zoom in on my video here so you can see a little more up close detail of how I'm doing these little branch, not really strokes, I'm calling it, it's more like dabbing the paint on there. And if you start to get too wide from the top, you can always just make your tree taller, and then you can get that narrow top back up. I'm just going to vary the direction of your little branches, because some will be sticking up and some will be sticking down. I know that first one is kind of blending in a lot with that indigo on the outside edge, but the next ones will be a little more defined. We'll do a much taller one for this next one. And if you're looking for another tutorial that would be a little exercise that I have actually as one of my previous videos from just fairly recently, so maybe about 2 videos back. This one is a little exercise where I actually painted pine trees with 8 different paintbrush styles or types of brushes. So it's one fun to check out and practice along, so you can find a brush that you really like to paint these pine trees with. And it's kind of fun to just test out your different brushes, maybe ones you've never used before for painting trees, and worth a try and check it out. Alright, I want to get a little bit more of my midnight color here. I'll do a little bit shorter tree here now. You can see I kind of do a little bit more downward branches as I get to the top, and then they start to flare out as they get lower. But this is basically, it would be like the silhouette of a tree, and you'd see the sky behind it with the Milky Way galaxy, and or an imaginary sky. It's kind of like the Northern Lights a little bit, but just a fun little painting to do. I'll come over here, I'll make one just slightly taller. And then one more over here. I think I want to put just another one that's maybe about mid-height there, because there's kind of a gap there and I feel like it needs a little bit more there. About that high. There. And I'm not concerned about having very defined branches along the bottom here and end up being all disappearing into each other and being full on the bottom. Before I pull my tape off, I'm just going to hit this with my dryer one more time just to make sure I don't smudge the paint as I peel that off. Oh, I better put the lid back on my bleed-proof white. That is how that has gotten so dry and crusty over the last couple years. Probably time to buy a new one. Alright, and that heat tool kind of helped me get my tape up a little bit because it makes it peel up. Wow, I did really good with barely any bleeding there, just right there. I think I smudged it up there. Right, that turned out really pretty. It's, I think, even better than the first one I did. So, those are super fun. Alright guys, if you painted this painting with me, I would love for you to share it with me. You can tag me on Instagram with Mrs. Hand Painted, and thanks for watching in, and I hope that you are able to pick up one of these sets. They are available in my Etsy shop, and I'm super proud of it. I just love these colors, and just drop me a comment and let me know what you think of this video. Have a great day, guys. Bye.